Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Group Director John Passmore.
That is the theme for Fawlty Towers. Does that make me Basil Fawlty? Good afternoon. Now, if we've been to the same COP, you will have heard me say that I retired at 45. And when I say that, sometimes a little shiver goes through the room as people nudge their neighbours and say, 45? How did he do that? Well, it's very easy, I'll tell you. To retire at 45, what you do is you write a letter saying, I resign, and then if you haven't got another job to go to, you are officially retired. But that's the wrong question. See, the correct question is, why did he retire at 45? This is my why. There's me, my wife Tamsin, and a dog called Blue, and we're all on a very small boat, and we're off to see the world on a budget of £12,000 a year, which turned out to be a slight miscalculation. Because you can see, once you start making plans like that, you can be pretty sure that life is going to get in the way. Let me show you what life threw at us over the next 10 years. Right, you see we've made some changes. The dog is gone. The boat has gone. The £12,000 a year budget has most definitely gone. And we're all on holiday in Turkey. And you can see that it's all so very expensive that I've even had to sell my hair. Now, behind the smile up there is a very worried man, because that's when I discovered that at 55, they don't give you another job. And I didn't know where to turn, because we paid for that holiday out of savings, just like we were paying for everything else in those days. So, fortunately, I was one of the lucky ones. And down at my local community hall, I was going to a craft fair, and that's going to change. And somebody thrust into my hand this. And I took a look at this, and I thought, well, that's brilliant. I said, what do I have to do? And they said, well, what you do is you save yourself lots of money, and you get all your family and friends to save lots of money, and then you make lots of money. I said, I'm in. And so I went off and I talked to my family. And my family said, we'll see how you get on with it. Now, you can rearrange those words any way you like, and they still don't come out as yes. I promise. So I went to the sponsor and I said, sponsor, it's no good. They didn't join. He said, well, don't worry, just get some distributors, and maybe their families will join. So I went and got some distributors. I got 5 distributors, and I call them the famous 5. Okay? Let me introduce you. Now, the first one was Peter. Now, Peter was an insurance salesman, not a very good one. His own advice to himself about his pension was equitable life. But Peter didn't stay long, so it didn't matter how bad he was, because Peter said that he didn't like the company and he didn't like the people. So it was goodbye to him. Our next distributor was Wayne. Now, Wayne was a building labourer, and he was redundant. Wayne dumped me by text, which is frightfully modern. And this is Wayne's text. I don't want anything to do with because I think it's a con. Complete with some wonderful spelling. So, goodbye to Wayne. Then we had my old friend Gareth. I'd known Gareth for a long time, but obviously I didn't know him well enough, because as he told me, I signed up under the influence of very powerful antidepressants. So Gareth ran. Next one, I admit, was a mistake. This is Andrea. And Andrea was on incapacity benefit for a very good reason. She was incapable. Andrea was incapable of getting up in the morning. She was incapable of making a phone call. She was incapable of answering a phone call. She was incapable of pretty much doing anything. But she did assure me that this was a temporary condition because I just need to get my head together. And 5 years later, we're still waiting for Andrea to get her head together. So that just left Andy. Now, Andy was a policeman with an insurmountable problem. This was Andy's problem. It doesn't work in Milton Keynes. Now, is there anybody here from Milton Keynes? Doesn't work there, does it? No. So that was the end of our distributors. So that left me, basically, with the rest of the population of the United Kingdom. Now, there are two good things about the rest of the population of the United Kingdom. One is that there are 60 million of them. Two, they don't know how much you don't know. So it's really quite easy for them to say yes. And the funny thing is that once one of them has said yes, it does tend to happen that the next one says yes. And pretty soon you get a whole lot of yeses. And when all this is going on, your family come back to you and they say, you know that utility thing, how's it going? And you say, it's going brilliantly. And then they say, do you think we should join? Yes. And so they do. My two sisters took 4 months and 5 months to join. My father-in-law took 5 months. My brother-in-law took 2 years. And my sister-in-law, who was trying to make some obscure point, took 4.5 years before she joined. And then she persuaded her daughter to become a distributor. But, you see, I hadn't done anything very clever. But see what happened to my group numbers. These are the group numbers. I started back in April 2005. And 6 months later, I had 99 group customers. The bad news was that almost all of them were my own. So the team wasn't doing very much. But I persevered. And I carried on, and the group numbers began to go up bit by bit. Okay? Until we reached a point in the autumn of 2007 when I had 500 group and 200 of them were my own. So we've made some progress, but this is not what you call the snowball effect, is it? This is not exponential growth. So I said to the sponsor, it's not going fast enough. And the sponsor said, just keep going. So I did. And soon after that, I was sitting at a kitchen table with a young mum, 2 children, and showing her how much money she could save, and she said, what do you get out of this? And I said, shall I show you how the money works? So I showed her how the money works, and she said, well, I could do that. And that was how Joe Carroll joined. And we went to see Joe's dad, and he joined. I mean, he joined straight away. Couldn't believe it. And so I said, well, if you've got a family like that, go talk to the rest of them. And she did. And they joined. And I said, tell you what, every time you go and talk to somebody, show them this martini presentation thing. And she did. And then she started building a team. And guess what? In the next 2 years, Joe went from a standing start to marketing director, brought in 2,100 group customers, and built one of the fastest growing teams in the business. Thank you. And guess what that did for my business? Well, let's take a look, shall we? It started growing. And then it started growing faster. And it started growing faster and faster. And once you get that kind of momentum going, it is inevitable that extraordinary things happen. Shall I show you one of the extraordinary things? Okay. We had a gentleman named Dr. Mahmood join us. And in 1 month, he recruited 27 distributors. This is the same Dr. Mahmood who was up on stage at Express Day for 8 separate awards. The same Dr. Mahmood who you see in News Plus consistently as the top executive director, and his team consistently showing up the top senior executives. In fact, is Dr. Mahmood here today? I bet he's here today. Dr. Mahmood, are you here? Would you stand up? Can we have a light on the doctor? I think he's over there somewhere. He's standing up. Give this man a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know what a genuine diamond-encrusted superstar looks like, that's what he looks like. Thank you very much, Doctor. Okay, now let's just analyze this a bit. Okay? Dr. Mahmood, medical doctor, lives in East London, property investor. Me, retired old buffer, running a bed and breakfast in rural Suffolk. What do you think are the chances that we would ever have met if it hadn't been for this business? And yet we now speak almost on a daily basis. He rings me up, he says, John, I'm sitting with 6 new distributors, they've all just joined. I said, I'm going to put the phone on speaker, would you say hello? So I said, hello. Would you like somebody like that in your team? Yeah, I bet. Okay. He's a superstar, I'm not. 5 years in, I'm still a group director. So what I've done is I've failed my way to success, haven't I? That's it. I've failed my way to success, and why not? Because there's a precedent for this. Some of the biggest names in this business failed their way to success. You don't believe me? Let's take a look at some. Okay? Recognize that face? Yeah. Gary Whittaker. What a failure. Took him 3 months to get his first 6 customers. Dear oh dear. How about this one? Let's look at this one. Rob, you recognize him? Rob Barris. Do you know how long it took Rob to get 20 customers? 5 years. You're joking me. It doesn't end there. It gets more embarrassing. And we got Jimmy and Nicola Chapman. Do you know how many customers their team got in the first year? Remember, this is one of the biggest teams in the business. The first year, Jimmy and Nicola's team got 20 customers. Are we impressed? I don't think so. And yet they kept going. Now, why would they want to do that? Because if something's not working, you don't keep doing it, do you? It's not sensible. So there must have been a reason for it. It must be that they could see a bigger picture than what they were actually experiencing. So I bet that they went to an event, something like this, and they saw something or heard something that gave them what we call in this business the light bulb moment. Because you see, you don't join this business when you sign the form. You join this business when you finally grasp the power of what you've got hold of. Now, wouldn't it be great if I could just reach inside your head and flick a little switch and give you that light bulb moment right here and right now? But I can't. Can't do it. It doesn't work that way. But what I can do is tell you about my light bulb moment. That came at Express Day 2006, which I went to because we go to the events. And I sat there somewhere at the back and I watched these people come up on stage and tell their stories. And somewhere towards the middle of the afternoon, it suddenly dawned on me that they were just ordinary people. And they only had one thing in common, which was that they hadn't given up. They just kept on going. And after that, I became a real student of the stories we hear in this business. And one of the most inspiring was from that failure, Gary Whittaker. You see, Gary reached a point when he was getting really frustrated, and he said to his sponsor, it's not going fast enough. And the sponsor said, don't worry, just keep going, because one day it'll grow more in 1 month than it did in the whole of the first year. And he did keep going, and that happened. And it happened for me. And it will happen for you if you keep going. But you see, you can't just keep going without something to help you. And I knew I needed some help. Something to get me through all the disappointments, all the obstacles, to help me see the big picture. Now, you've seen how many children I have, so you'll know that I'm a Harry Potter fan, and I turn to the world of Harry Potter for my inspiration. I turned to Professor Snape. Because Professor Snape is the one who gets to take the unbreakable vow. And I decided I needed an unbreakable vow. So I made up my own. Now, this is mine. You can make up yours. This is it. You ready for the unbreakable vow? Here we are. Where there are obstacles, I will overcome. Where there are disappointments, I will persevere. I will never, ever give up. Right. There's only one thing to warn you about with this. It doesn't work. I am not a wizard. The Dementors aren't real. And that, just up on the screen, doesn't work. But, if before you go to sleep tonight, just as you're closing your eyes, you say that to yourself. If when you greet yourself in the bathroom mirror tomorrow morning, you say it again. If you say this when you're washing up the breakfast things, when you're doing your exercises, if you print this out, put it in a little frame and hang it on your wall and see it every day. If you blue tack it to the sun visor of your car. If you carry this around with yourself so much that it becomes a part of you, it becomes who you are, then it will be magic, and it will work, and you will never give up. And I will see you at the top. Thank you very much.